As Donald Trump doubles down on both a false and electorally dangerous message that affordability isn't a genuine concern and it's simply a Democratic hoax, an increasing number of MAGA Fox News hosts like Brian Kilmeade of Fox and Friends are visibly panicking and desperately trying to guide and manipulate Trump into a more honest, more electorally palatable message, even as Trump continues to ignore them. And it's so funny to see it out on live TV. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, I want you to see this clip of Brian Kilmeade, who's one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters on Fox News, surrounded by Lawrence Jones and Ainsley Earhardt, other prominent MAGA Fox News hosts, trying to guide Trump. They know Trump watches Fox and Friends, and they know Trump is easily triggered and thin-skinned. And so Kilmeade is trying to massage and guide Trump into avoiding a total disaster in 2026. Check it out.
The only thing I think that he could subtly change is when he says all this is a hoax. It makes some people on first blush says the president's not acknowledging that prices are higher. But what he is acknowledging is what he's doing about it. But he thinks the whole outrage that Democrats says the president's causing this is the hoax part of it. And I think he should could make that clearer because it allows the talking point on the other side to do what Joe Biden did and tell everyone how Bidenomics was great and told all his faculty to go out there and sell a incorrect story. What I think the president could also do is explain what inflation is. It was at 9%. Right. Now it's at 2%. But you don't chip away at the 9% unless you can go to deflation and get the price down. We're not at that point, but now it's going.
So I want to stop right there. Again, there's more, but let's unpack this for a moment. Again, look, typically speaking, when evaluating the strength of the economy, historically, it's been about GDP growth, unemployment rate, real wage gains, unemployment among various sectors, manufacturing investment, manufacturing jobs, things of that nature. There are all sorts of macroeconomic metrics you look at. And objectively speaking, the Biden economy, all things considered, especially when you consider COVID and COVID-related inflation, was objectively the strongest economy in the world. And I said that quite a bit on my channel because it's true. What has changed and what will probably never go back is the American people don't give a damn about any of that. And understandably so at the end of the day, right? When you are paying more for shit you need as the wealthiest in this country get even richer, right? As the wealth gap widens, as wealth is even more consolidated in the hands of a few, as Elon Musk, aggressively works it so that he's the world's first trillionaire. When you're paying more, even just a little bit more for everyday essentials, that's going to rightfully piss you off. Now, again, I would argue that the American people wrongly blamed Biden for that, but that's part of American tradition. You blame the person in power. My point is, when people like me and Joe Biden tried to say, okay, well, listen, when you look at the macroeconomic metrics, don't get too upset about the economy. Like, yes, you can be pissed that you're paying more, but look at GDP growth, look at job gains, look at all these things. We expected the old rules where that would matter. They don't matter anymore. Donald Trump is falling in the same trap here. Donald Trump is making the same mistake that Biden did that cost Biden, well, Kamala Harris and Democrats, the election. Okay, he's making the same mistake, except I would argue two things make it worse. Three things maybe. Number one, Trump promised that he would end these things on day one, that he would snap his fingers and get it taken care of. He lied to solicit your votes. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment. Number two, his economy is actually has less going for it than Biden's did. So jobs, for example, are atrocious under Trump compared to Biden's. You need a job. Most Americans need a job to pay the bills. They at least had that under Biden, even as the bills got more and more expensive. Now under Trump, fewer people are employed, job opportunities are fewer, and bills are still going up, right? So he has less going for him. And GDP growth under Trump has been atrocious compared to Biden's as well, okay? So that's the second thing going against him. The third thing is, when it comes to inflation, inflation has not dropped under Trump. It's gone up. So yes, it was at a 9% under Biden at its height, but when Biden left office, it was at 3%. It was trending downward. Okay, it was going down. It was not static. Under Trump, that momentum stopped and is now ticking back upwards. So it's not that Trump has failed in his promise. It's worse. He's doing the opposite. And that's the big part. Unlike Biden, who could say, listen, I inherited this mess from COVID. That's why every country on earth got hit with this shit. Trump can't even say that. Trump is the sole cause of this because of his tariffs. So those are like the 3 or 4 things that really screw Trump uniquely here, which is why 11 months in, his polling on the economy and inflation is as bad or worse as Biden's ever was 4 years.
2.4%. He left inflation when Biden left. It was at 3 and 4%. The high was 9%. So it's going up at a slower rate, and it's going to keep going down. But the lowest you could possibly get is 2. That's all we've experienced.
Well, I think when he says it's a con job, the Democrats talking about affordability, because he's saying they're all talk. They're telling you what they're going to do. The free buses, the rent freezes, the tax the wealthy, universal child care. And now you have Mom Donnie saying he's going to stop the homeless suites. So he's going to let them just sleep on the sidewalks here in New York. He's not going to put them in facilities. But the problem is, if you have that message, you're facing hurdles. The president's right. It is a con job because you can't get all of this. You can't everything free unless you're taxing the rich, unless you're increasing corporate taxes. Well, guess what happens? They all leave. So there's no money. There's no money to fund all of this. You have the tax fights, the reliance on the state. You have you can't secure these funds. How are they going to do that? Kathy Hochul's saying we're not going to increase taxes, yet Zoran Mamdani says we are. He's not going to be able to do that without her support. It's just unsustainable. I
think the president's like, I'll tell you about a million things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me a couple of things, anything? Can you name 2 things Democrats are doing?
Resist.
If they had the power, what would you be doing?
That's the thing. Democrats don't have the power, so we don't have the same obligation. Remember, what they're upset about is they are no longer the insurgency. They're the ones in power. When Biden was in power, people like Brian Kilmeade, Ainsley Earhart, and Lawrence Jones, as well as Republicans like Trump, were blaming literally anything that went wrong in this country on Joe Biden. It's all Joe Biden's fault. Well, now the shoe is on the other foot, and Democrats should rightfully hold Trump to the same standard. And that's what Kilmeade's upset about. Well, and he even says it there at the end. Well, if you had power, well, fuck you, Kilmeade. You took us out of power. It's not our responsibility. It's all on you, and we get to ruthlessly punish you all politically for failing, just like you did with us, right? The shoe's on the other foot. If you don't like it, pick a different standard for Democrats. We are not obligated to endorse this double standard. I'm glad the American people are rejecting it. And CNN has a really good write-up about the asymmetry between what Trump promised as a candidate and what he's doing as president. Candidate Trump vowed to make America affordable again. Trump says it's a scam. President Trump says it's a scam. Donald Trump has repeatedly argued that affordability issue is an epic scam conjured by Democrats. What is a con job? I think affordability is the greatest con job, he said from the Oval Office on Tuesday. It's a bizarre argument on many levels, especially since Trump is about to travel to Pennsylvania on Tuesday to promote his economic agenda and his continued focus on, quote, ending Joe Biden's inflation crisis, a White House official told CNN. And for Trump, calling affordability a scam is doubly strange because it's the very issue that helped propel him back to the White House. Trump successfully tapped into anger over the cost of living in 2024 during the 2024 election and promised voters he would swiftly bring down prices, even if that was never realistic in the first place. And again, if you're a right-leaning independent or you're MAGA curious or you're MAGA watching this video, I don't give a shit that you say, well, gosh, Trump was exaggerating when he said he could just end it on day one. No, I'm sorry. He repeatedly made that promise, and he's going to be held to that standard, and Democrats should work their asses off to hold Trump to that standard. And if you don't like it, you shouldn't be making that promise in the first place. Candidate Trump used remarkably similar language to what Trump now dismisses as a hoax. Quote, inflation is destroying our country, Trump said during an August rally in North Carolina after holding up Tic Tacs to highlight shrinkflation. Quote, we will target everything from car affordability to housing affordability to insurance costs to supply chain issues. Trump said at a rally that he would instruct his cabinet to deliver results, quote, within the first 100 days, if not earlier. Weeks later, at a rally in Montana, Trump promised to bring down, quote, the prices of all goods, quote, starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again on day one. The number 3 promise on the 2024 Republican Party platform read, quote, end inflation and make America affordable again, all caps. Last month, Trump returned to the matter briefly in the hours after Democrats in Virginia and New Jersey won key races, in part by focusing on affordability. Quote, affordability is a goal, he said. Dismissing affordability as a scam is impossible to square with official economic statistics, independent research, alternative measures, and public polling. Just 21% of U.S. adults in November described current economic conditions as excellent or good, down from 24% in October and the lowest percentage since March, according to a Gallup poll released Thursday. Far more, 40%, say now conditions are poor, up from 37% in October. Relatedly, Gallup's Economic Confidence Index dropped in November to its weakest reading since July 2024. Again, not good for Trump. Although Trump has dismissed these polls as fake, Wall Street research backs up these feelings. Consider that roughly 24% of U.S. households are living paycheck to paycheck, according to Bank of America statements. And Fitch Ratings has found that the percentage of subprime borrowers who are late on car loans has doubled to an all-time high, surpassing even levels during COVID or the Great Recession. Snowballing effect. Of course, affordability didn't suddenly become a problem as soon as Trump took office. It's a years-long issue, one that intensified in historic fashion during President Obama's term, when a variety of factors conspired to drive inflation to a 40-year high in 2022 of 9.1. Those years of inflation have now snowballed into a higher overall level of prices, frustrating Americans whose paychecks don't go as far as they used to. Consumers must spend more to get the same, or sometimes less. Each month, a typical U.S. household must now pay $208 more than they did in September 2024 to buy the same goods and services. So again, this idea that wages outpacing inflation, total bullshit. They are spending more now than they were in September of last year, $200 more than they were. Quote, that's almost $2,500 in increased cost per year for the same amount of groceries, electricity, childcare, and other items. That's what Americans are experiencing, not the fact that inflation is at 3% instead of 9%. The cost of living isn't all that bad. Gas prices dropped below 3% a gallon this week during the first 4.5 years, according to AAA. It's a major improvement from the spike from $5 a gallon in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent oil prices skyrocketing. And again, MAGA blamed that on Joe Biden, when in fact it was Russia. Part of Trump's bind is that his favorite economic tool, massive tariffs, are unpopular and viewed as part of the affordability problem. Economists say they've contributed to price hikes on everything from coffee and bananas to car repair and clothing, albeit less than expected. As of November 1st, prices were nearly 6% higher than the pre-tariff trend. The thing is, though, Trump doesn't get credit for the fact that it's lower than expected because he's walked back so many of the tariffs, and there have been so many legal challenges to the tariffs. The tariffs that he has imposed have had a deleterious impact on people's prices. So, none of these numbers are helpful for a president who loves to import taxes so much that he has dubbed himself the tariff man. And Trump's campaign promises were unrealistic even before he took office. Consumer prices rarely come down en masse unless there are larger economic issues at play, like a recession. The best case all along has been that prices would increase so gradually that they're barely noticed and dwarfed by pay hikes. The bottom line is that Trump faces an almost impossible task in trying to convince Americans the affordability crisis they experience each day doesn't exist. After all, candidate Trump told them it does. So, great write-up by CNN about this issue. And again, I think Donald Trump is screwed on this, which is why Brian Kilmeade is desperate to help him. And right now, Trump is not inclined to take the help. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.